All right, so today I'm giving you my 15 tips what I would do if I was starting a YouTube channel in 2022. So I've been on YouTube for 10 years now, which is insane. So much has changed in the last 10 years with YouTube and social media. This video is a little bit different than my normal content. If you're new here, my name's Taylor. I do mostly travel, beauty, lifestyle content. I'm currently living in different cities doing the nomad thing, currently in Chicago. But I wanted to make this video and hopefully help some of you guys out who are debating starting a YouTube channel in 2022 or whatever year you are watching this in the future. I realized my bed could look a little neater there. There we go. Also, a video like this by Catherine Manning popped up on my recommended videos and I ended up watching her whole video. I agree with a lot of the stuff she talked about and I also have different ideas to add on to that. So this video was inspired by Catherine. I'll link her video down below so you can watch that as well. But here are my 15 YouTube tips. All right, number one is be realistic and think about input versus output. One of the biggest differences with social media now is that TikTok exists. And while this video is about YouTube, the fact that TikTok exists and that videos can be seen so much easier on TikTok than they can be on YouTube with minimal effort compared to YouTube is something that I don't think you should overlook and really think about when you're starting a YouTube channel, because whether you're doing it hand in hand with TikTok or you're starting TikTok first and then trying to kind of transfer those followers over to YouTube, on TikTok you can find rapid growth with very minimal effort relative to YouTube. YouTube is slow growth with maximum effort. So if you're working a full-time job and you're wanting to grow your social media, I would say with the existence of TikTok, I honestly think it makes more sense to start out on TikTok. The TikTok algorithm is insane. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. Everyone is starting off on an equal playing field. A video can get hundreds of thousands of views when you only have 2 other videos within a couple hours. And that is just something that very, very, very rarely happens on YouTube. More people can see your content faster on TikTok. People who are consistent on TikTok can grow from 0 followers to literally hundreds of thousands of followers or millions of followers in a year. And that again is very, very, very rare on YouTube. YouTube, it typically takes years and years and years of consistency and a ton of hours to get to that point. Whereas TikTok, like I said, relative to YouTube, super minimal effort. Literally anyone can do it if you just have a phone. So I'm not saying this to discourage you from starting YouTube, but if I was starting in 2022, I would start on TikTok and then either convert those followers over to YouTube if that's your long-term goal, because you can make a good living on TikTok as well. This is the last thing I'm gonna say about TikTok, and then we're gonna focus on YouTube for the rest of this video. But another great tool with TikTok that you can use for your advantage with YouTube is seeing what content people are interested in and what performs well. The TikTok algorithm is wild. Like sometimes you could say one sentence and the video will go viral and there's no real like rhyme or reason behind that. But other times you might be testing a product or doing a video in a certain way or talking about your experience, I don't know, growing up with 10 siblings. Like sometimes just certain topics that you don't think people would be interested in hearing more about end up blowing up, and that can be a really good way to get content ideas for YouTube to try and figure out what the heck people are interested in. It can take literally anywhere from 10 minutes to, an hour to make a TikTok if you're like really doing editing, whereas a YouTube video, the amount of time that it takes to sit down, film, edit, make the thumbnail, do the description box, add all of your links, do all of that, typically minimum about 6 hours per video, closer to 7-8 usually. So if you're realistically thinking about staying consistent with something while you are likely, in school or working a full-time job or have something else going on, just think about input versus output on the 2 platforms and how they differ. Number 2, people have very differing opinions on this with YouTube, but I'm gonna say don't niche down too much. Some people think you should pick a specific niche, whether it's makeup, travel, building furniture, one topic that your channel is about. Being on this platform and making content now for 10 years, it can get really friggin' boring if you are only talking about one thing and you're like putting yourself into this box of being just one person talking about one specific topic. The other risk with that is what happens if you lose complete total interest in that topic? What if you start making videos about New York City, which are performing well because people search for New York City content, but then in 3 years, you decide you don't want to live in New York City anymore? Are people going to still follow your channel if you're specifically only making videos about New York City and then you move to Louisiana, So think about longevity, not just what you're specifically interested in right now or that what you think people are searching for right now. I think the perfect mix is making content that you're passionate about, but that's also searchable. So for me, when I started my YouTube channel, something that I loved talking about and testing were different foundations. I had cystic acne and I have fair skin, so a lot of people were interested in those two topics, which was a good combo because people are searching how to cover acne, foundations for pale skin. And I have reviews on my channel of pretty much every foundation that exists. I've toned down the foundation content in the last year or so, but up until then, I was doing tons of content around foundation, 15 days of foundation, Foundation Fridays, and still to this day, people find my channel through those foundation videos. So now I do a mix. I do a mix of makeup, vlogs, travel. I know for myself, like if there's someone that I really like watching on YouTube, I really don't care what they're talking about. I'm more interested in them and their life. But when you're starting your channel and thinking about growth and how people are gonna find your content, you do need to take into consideration and look for what people are actually searching for. There's a lot of videos on how to do that. An example of this is when I started my YouTube channel. I think there was maybe one video on how to paint furniture without sanding, and I was in my college room and I was trying to paint this thrift store piece of furniture and I didn't want to sand it. And so as soon as I figured out how to do that, I was like, I'm gonna make a video on that because obviously there aren't a lot of videos on this topic. And it's something that if I was searching for it and couldn't find a good video on, I'm sure other people are searching for. To this day, that is one of my most popular and most viewed videos is how to paint your furniture without sanding. I think it's okay to like throw in videos that people are gonna find your channel through, but then they stick because of your personality. I think if you niche down too much and get too specific, your channel might grow faster, but ultimately I don't think that's a good long-term plan. Number 3, your channel name. I feel like everyone that's been on YouTube for a while has had some username that now does not exist. Mine was the Taylor. Don't ask me where that came from. The biggest issue with it was that people couldn't spell it and people couldn't pronounce it. And people thought my name was Talia or Taylor. It also just doesn't sound very professional whenever you're like out and about and someone's asking about your YouTube channel. You have to be like the Taylor Baby Doll 03, like whatever it is. Try to pick a channel name that is easy for people to spell and easy for people to remember. Number 4 is consistency. Besides search and making content that is searchable and that people are gonna land on and find, consistency is so key on YouTube. You can't make 2 videos a month and expect your channel to grow. You have to really commit, especially when people start to get to know you. You want to come back. Like if I'm excited about watching someone that I just found, if I find one of their videos and then they don't upload for a month, it's just harder to like get into and form a relationship between your audience if you're not uploading frequently. Not only that side of it, but also with the YouTube algorithm, it's better the more often you upload. Also, the more videos you have out there, the more likely it is for people to find your channel and the more likely it is for you to learn and create videos that are gonna catch people's attention. I would say if you're starting out on YouTube, 2 times a week is probably good, at least once a week, definitely, but 2 times a week would be ideal. Personally, I did 3 videos a week for about 8 years. Definitely made me have 0 life outside of YouTube and work since I was still working at the same time. But I think 1 to 2 a week is definitely like the sweet spot. One thing that I personally think is really cool about YouTube and that I really respect with other YouTubers is typically every single person has a very similar kind of story where for the first, years they were on YouTube, they were taking care of kids, working full time. They did have other things going on. I was a full-time college student when I started my YouTube, and then I was working full-time for years at the same time that I was spending my weekends sitting down and filming and editing. That was a sacrifice that I chose to make at the time. But one thing I do think is cool is that most YouTubers have some kind of story like that, and it takes a certain amount of grit to really push through and stay consistent and be committed to YouTube, especially for years when you're not making money at the beginning and you have to really love doing it, which we'll get to at a later point. Number 5, retention. People can be finding your videos, but for one reason or another, not staying. And I feel like most of the time it's because you're not being yourself, which I know sounds very cliche. Literally everyone on YouTube says just be yourself. It's hard to do when you're just like sitting in a room. Right now I'm sitting in a room by myself talking to a camera. I think like 4 years it took me before I like got more comfortable on camera, but also just like didn't care and just was myself. What I did when I started my channel, I went through like a phase where I was like trying to be like Jenna Marbles, okay? It's so bad and so embarrassing to look back on, but create a reason for people to stay, and that can be just being yourself is enough of a reason. Personally, I find like the channels that I go back to over and over again are ones that open up about their lives. I feel like I can get to know. I feel like I know certain things about them. I'm not just watching a makeup video, or I'm not just watching a travel video. Like, they're talking about things going on in their lives. And obviously that takes a certain level of vulnerability and just being open, but you got to give people a reason to stay. So they're not just finding your channel and then bouncing, because people are going to stick around for you. There's the cutest two dogs playing down there. Oh my God, you're so cute. Number 6, filming equipment. I'm going to leave a link down below with all of the filming equipment that I personally use and that I recommend. It depends on what kind of videos you're doing. It depends on your budget, but I think the barrier to entry is so much lower now than it used to be, because you really can get like very good quality video on the iPhone or an Android. Like, if you're just starting out, just to get practice making videos before you know if it's something that you can stick to and that you're going to be consistent with and that you want to invest in, I would say you can definitely just try it out on your phone, just to try it out and see if it's something that you want to invest in. If you are at the point where you've been doing it for a few months and you think you're going to stick with it, listen, I have like a $3,000 camera and then a camera that is, this one I think is about $800, and it's what I've had with me traveling for the last 7 months. It's perfect. It gets the job done. Right now, my background is not ideal, so don't judge the whole background we have going on right now. It was the best lighting here. But I've been filming for the last 7 months in pure natural lighting in different Airbnbs and hotel rooms, just with this camera and a mic and a tripod. So you don't need to go wild. Do I think it's worth it to upgrade and invest in your channel? Yes, but there are so many amazing quality cameras out there now that are like made for vlogging. You guys, when I started my channel, I used to put a mirror behind the friggin' Canon T3i. There's no autofocus. Like, things have come a long way, okay? A long way. Also, every YouTuber learns this the hard way. Get a hard drive and back up your friggin' footage, okay? Just back it up. Number 7, I think this is like arguably the most important thing, because it affects everything. Be honest with yourself and really think about why you want to start a YouTube channel. And I say that because if you're doing this just to make money, it's really different now, because it's very well known that you can make a really good living off of YouTube and social media in general. When I started my channel, it wasn't like that yet. Like, this industry was not what it is now. People who were doing YouTube back then, I would say like literally almost everyone was just doing it because they loved doing it. Brand deals weren't a thing yet. The first like 2 years on YouTube, I want to say I made like maybe $500, $1,000 a year. Back then, I think people were purely doing it because they loved it, and then it turned in and morphed into this crazy industry that now is very lucrative. But because people are aware of how lucrative this industry is now, I do think a lot of people think YouTube's easy. They don't understand the work that goes into it. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Everyone would have a successful YouTube channel. It is difficult. It's difficult to grow. In order to dedicate the time that you need to grow a YouTube channel, you have to really love doing it. So I would say treat it like a hobby before it becomes a business. It's not going to become a business if you're not passionate about it and if you're not treating it like a hobby and something that you love doing. If you're solely focused on making money from it, listen, that's a good mindset to have when you're starting a business. Obviously, businesses are supposed to be profitable. That's the ideal goal. YouTube is different because you are your brand for the most part, unless you're doing a channel where it's like just, something else not involving your face and yourself. Social media is a weird job where your life is intertwined fully with your business. You are your brand. So you just kind of have to come at it from a different angle and be very patient. That definitely changes when your channel gets to a certain point. Like, you have to 100% treat it like a business, because at that point it is. I'm just talking from like a growth perspective. You have to love doing it. Number 8, just start. This is like what I get asked most about. Just people saying that they're scared to start. They don't know how to start. They're afraid what people might think. They don't know how to edit. They don't know how to work a camera. None of us did. When we started our YouTube channels, none of us knew what we were doing. You have to research, you have to figure it out. You have to be someone that is okay with like Googling or YouTubing how to edit on Final Cut Pro. I still do that when I edit videos and I don't know how to do something. I still look it up. I look up stuff all of the time to figure out how to do it. You're gonna have to just start and figure out. You might love the idea of YouTube, but then when you sit down to film, it might not be for you. You might not like it. So you really just have to sit down, start. I'm pretty sure all of us have our like first few videos on private now. It's gonna be a disaster, but it's okay. Everyone goes through it. And here's the thing. No one is gonna be seeing your first few videos on YouTube. It's not like TikTok where, you know, you could post 3 videos and one of them could get 50,000 views or 1 million views, whatever. Like, that's very rare that that happens with YouTube. No one is really gonna be seeing your first few videos. Just think of them as like practice. If you don't want to, you don't have to tell people about it yet. Just put it out there. But you just have to start and you just have to figure it out as you go. Don't look at the list of 40 things in advance. Just go one by one and work step by step. Try not to get overwhelmed. You'll just figure it out as you go. It's gonna be fine. Just start. The importance of branding. So not just your overall branding, but specifically thumbnails. Thumbnails and titles, but I think thumbnails even more so, can be what makes or breaks a video. If you're someone who has no idea like what branding is, or that doesn't come naturally to you, again, you'll figure it out and do research. Go on like Pinterest, look at different fonts you like, whatever. Just kind of try to create some kind of consistency. You don't have to have your brand figured out right when you start. Everyone has changed their YouTube banner and font and everything 5 million times. You're gonna figure it out as you go. But with thumbnails, that is really important for people actually clicking on your videos. So that's something that I would definitely make sure you have a strong thumbnail. Look through videos, see what's performing well. Don't straight up copy people, but you can get inspiration from different thumbnails, see what kind of colors of text are performing well. If you notice red text is something that caught your attention, that might be something good to note. Just like small things that you can play around with and figure out. Number 10, you've got to kind of have a balance, I think, between evergreen content and I call it like retaining content, like content that's going to retain your current viewers and that your current viewers are excited to see. Yes, the goal with every video is to like reach new people, but there are certain videos that I put out that I know for a fact are going to get like initially half the amount of views that most of my other videos get, just because my current audience isn't as interested in that topic, but then over time will outperform my videos that performs well with my current audience, if that makes sense. For example, whenever I post more city specific videos, so like Seattle travel guide, that one, I remember when it first went up, maybe a third of the views that it normally gets. But now that video has hundreds of thousands of views because whenever anyone's searching for a Seattle travel guide or where to go in Seattle, that video comes up. So trying to find a balance of that kind of content that initially likely won't perform as well, but then over time will outperform your other content, versus content like for me, Shadow and Schmooze is where I put on makeup and talk about life, do life updates. That's something I've done for years and I know my audience still really likes those videos and I like doing those videos. So for me, that's something I will continue to do, even though, you know, I don't know if a single Shadow and Schmooze video has ever like done crazy well or anything, because it's just a get ready with me video. It's not something that people are like really searching for, and I'm aware of that, but I do those videos for other reasons outside of just like getting views. Number 11, earn trust. I think especially when you're starting out, like think of it as a new friendship. Like people don't know you, people don't know your intentions, and it can take a long time to do that. So I just think at the beginning, if you're getting these like kind of sponsorships or things that you're not super into and you're doing it just to make money, I just don't think it's a good way to start off. I think you should just hold off on the sponsorships until you get a brand that you really like. You can earn your audience trust and they'll know that when you are talking about something, it's because you genuinely like the product. If you just start talking about, you know, fit teas and hair vitamins and whatever, I just think it starts off on like not the best foot. Obviously, I'm all for people earning money on social media. It's incredible. It's so cool that the industry has evolved the way it has. If you're in it for the long haul, turning down sponsorships or trades or whatever it is at the beginning that you don't believe in is only beneficial for you in the long run. Number 12, I feel like this is one that I haven't heard really other people talk about. YouTube does take like a certain level of mental strength, and there is like a mental burden aspect to it. It's obviously not a physically demanding job. Is it the most hard job on the planet? No, but it does take a lot of grit and you have to have some thick skin. So if you are, you know, wanting to grow this and you're wanting to really do it, just be aware that that is going to come. The more people that watch your videos, the more negative comments you'll get, the more people are going to have feedback about everything you do, everything you say. You just have to be okay with that. And that is something to think about if you want to do it long term. Think about like the mental aspect of YouTube. Number 13, form friendships with other YouTubers in the space. Not to leverage, not to like do videos together. I mean, people do that and it's fine. Like people do collab videos and stuff like that, but I just more so think it's important to have someone who understands, because it is a weird job. Like I just talked about in the point before, it can take a lot of mental energy and things that not a lot of people have to deal with. So if you have a friend in the space and understands also how things go, that can overall just make your YouTube journey a much more pleasurable experience. Number 14, if your channel is growing, be aware of managers in the space. Management companies, it used to be big MCNs, multi-channel networks. Now it's more like management companies. A lot of them, lock small channels into like multiple year deals where they're taking a cut of everything and not necessarily bringing you a whole lot. Think about it. They're gonna focus their resources on the people that are earning them the most money, that have the most subscribers. So if you're a channel with 50,000 subscribers and a management company reaches out to you, it might be beneficial for you if you're someone who doesn't like to answer your emails or you're not good at like the business side of it. There are definitely aspects where it can be helpful for certain types of people. But if a manager does reach out, then I would say go to, 3 or 4 different management companies, do some research and talk around to different ones and see what percentage they're offering you. Don't just accept the first one that comes in, because then you'll be locked into a few year contract typically. Number 15 is to hustle. I have a hard time with this because now I'm at a place where I think work-life balance is so important, but I wouldn't have gotten to where I am if I didn't hustle for years and years and years working, 60, 70 hour weeks. And I think you do have to like put in that sacrifice in those hours typically to get to where you want to be. TikTok is like the outlier here. That's why I think that's a great place to start. But with YouTube, you really do have to put in a ton of effort, a ton of hours, a ton of dedication, consistency. It is a very big commitment if you want to actually grow on YouTube. I think whenever you start a new project or business, whatever it is, that initial hustle is required. And whether that's a year of grinding hardcore or 3 years or 5 years, like sometimes it happens faster, sometimes it happens slower. But I do think you have to be okay with like really putting your all in solid for a while. You're starting it. Once you get to a point where you have it figured out, you're growing, you're doing good, whatever, that's when you can kind of start to hand off stuff, hire someone to do your thumbnails. I say this, but like I'm bad at this because I like controlling everything. I still edit my videos. I still do everything. It did decrease my amount of videos, but anyways, once you're at that point, then you can kind of like hand it off, find a better work-life balance, which I do think is really important. So I hope this video was helpful for you, whether it made you want to do YouTube or maybe it was a reality check or you're deciding to do TikTok instead. I just want to be real with you. This is where I think the YouTube industry is right now. If you're starting out, it is even harder to grow on YouTube, I think, now than it was 10 years ago, because there are so many other forms of content to consume right now. YouTube was like where everyone was getting their content, and now with TikTok and Instagram Reels and everything else, people are spread more thin. And with the YouTube algorithm changes, like it is just overall harder to grow on YouTube right now. I don't want you to have like no hope. If YouTube is something that you want to do and you're like so excited about, yes, go for it. It's such a great job now, and I'm like so thankful that I did it all those years and stuck with it, because like now it's given me the freedom to travel and do my job remotely. There are so many incredible things about doing YouTube that I'm so grateful for. So I don't want to discourage anyone from starting, but I also just wanted to be realistic with certain things I think you should be aware of if you're doing this in 2022. So I hope this video was helpful for you or you enjoyed watching. If it was, you can give it a thumbs up. Also, I'm curious, comment down below if you have ever thought about starting a YouTube channel or like made a few videos and then stopped. All of the camera gear I talked about will be listed down below in the description box. But I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video.